Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm MarzGurl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
And welcome to Season 2, first episode of Season 2. It's kind of episode 23. How are we numbering this?
Well, depending on newcomers, this is episode 1 of Season 2, so you can say you came in fresh here. For any of you guys that stuck with us from last season, you can count the old way, so this is episode 23. And we'll go ahead and list it as such probably on YouTube when this gets loaded later.
Right, because as always, this is remaining a YouTube podcast. Sometime in the future, maybe we'll iTunes this junk or something. I don't really know, but it's doing pretty okay as a YouTube entity.
Yeah.
What do you think? Would you like to start doing this live more regularly? Or
if we could manage to, I'm used to live performance, so that's not a problem for me necessarily. It's just always a matter of our schedules being free enough on a Thursday night.
In fact, I think being able to see what people are saying as we're talking about it also kind of fuels our topics of discussion.
Yeah.
And it kind of keeps us from prattling on about stuff that maybe we don't necessarily know about. So, I think it would be to our advantage to
if we can manage to do that, that would be nice.
So, that having been said, it's not very frequently that we would do live recordings. We were doing it like every 10 episodes or so, or if there was a special event. So hopefully this can now be special in that it will always be this way. I'd like to upgrade what we're using as a camera if that's going to be the case, because all I'm using right now is the laptop's camera, but at the very least...
Well, it's working.
Yeah, it's working. Unfortunately, really...
bad backlighting.
Really bad backlighting right now. But especially because it's a webcam, it looks especially bad. Thankfully, what really matters is the audio, because we're not showing off too much.
No.
There might come a time where eventually I would like to start splicing in, like, put picture-in-picture of something we're talking about, like have a trailer running silently in the background or something, because I'm pretty sure I can do that.
Right.
Just kind of spewing off things that I'd like to do with the show in the eventual future. But these are just ideas as we're coming in, and we've had this month-long break. What's been going on in this month-long break?
You mean, like,
with
stuff
you?
we haven't... Oh, with me? I'm going back to school.
Cool, me too.
Awesome.
Oh man, college.
Yeah, college. Woo! Except this time I'm almost out.
Yeah, almost out of college.
Almost out of college. Almost out of college and totally in debt.
What are you graduating from?
At least in associates, but it's been a long time overdue, so I'm just glad to get it out of the way.
What are you pursuing?
Associates in liberal arts for drama.
Okay, well, we gotta get you somewhere where that's gonna matter, because it's not gonna matter here in this city.
Nope.
If anybody needs somebody for the job, come to this man, because he's going to be looking for work very soon.
Yeah. And what were you up to this summer?
Oh, what was I up to this summer? I was busy not getting put on a TV show.
Oh.
That's really unfortunate. I came so close, but you guys, I cannot complain. I really cannot complain. For those of you who don't know, or perhaps forgot for like a second, I was so close to getting onto this next season.
Are we allowed to say that?
I'm allowed to say this much. I'm not allowed to talk about production. But I got so close to being on that next season of King of the Nerds. I was real close. And you know what? The guy who got chosen, let him be there. That's where he needs to be. As for myself, they treated me so well. I can't tell you about how the choosing process went, but I can tell you that they treated me as one of the People's Nerds contestants very nicely, got tours of Warner Brothers Studios, and got to be in on a live recording of Dion Cole's Black Box. They put me, after that, in the nicest hotel I've ever been in my entire life. Like, I can't even begin to tell you, like, it was, you can see Sunset Boulevard.
Like, you can't begin to tell us, or you legally can't begin to tell us?
No, I can tell you guys this part, because this part has nothing to do with the production process.
Yeah.
Like, it was like I would turn a corner, and then there would be more room for some reason inside this room. And that's, like, just in the bathroom. Like, and this bathroom had 4 different shower heads, and it had mirrors everywhere, and there was, like, food, and there was wine, and it was stuff that I wasn't getting charged for because TBS provided it, and, like, I can't complain. I got farther than most people would get in their lifetime, and I experienced things that just, I had no idea that I would ever get the chance to experience. I have no complaints. They treated me a lot better than I.
Yeah, somebody got to the joke before I could tell you. So that hotel room of yours was bigger on the inside.
No, it was pretty much just as big as it appeared. Until I rounded the corner and there was more room.
So it was bigger on the inside.
So I got to experience all these things. Like, I am so not used to how nice they treated me. Like, you get in limos, man. Like, you get in and there's these magazines for, like, Haute, spelled Haute, this brand of magazine.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were telling me about that.
And, like, watches, okay? Nothing but exquisite watches, like, encrusted in diamonds. And then somewhere in the back, there's a very tiny article about, like, Bugattis and Maseratis. And I'm just sitting here like, nope, this is not my lifestyle.
You were asking.
Can't wait to go back home.
You can knock on the window like, hey, do you guys have highlights? Maybe.
Well, do you have Electronic Gaming Monthly?
Yeah.
Like I was so
PlayStation
out of my
Magazine, something.
I was so out of my element. It was beyond bizarre. Like, I really don't think I could live that lifestyle my whole life. I don't think I could do it. But it was an experience to be sure. I'm glad I had the experience. If there's room for it somewhere in my future, then great. If it's not for a long while, then that's fine too, because I'm where I'm comfortable and I'm happy here, and yay, that was an experience.
But you grow from it, you learn from it, and altogether that just pushes for not just you, but for both of us to try for bigger things, because this just goes to show how far a person can get when you don't even expect those kinds of things to come your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes for all you guys out there, too. Just do stuff. And you might get stuff. But don't sit back and think, I can't. Because obviously I got pretty far. I was this close, man. Like, maybe there's hope in the future. And maybe there's hope in the future for one of you guys. That would be pretty cool. You gotta tell me if you guys make it onto something awesome like that. Because I would pay attention.
Yeah.
So that having been said, anything else cool to talk about right now before we get into our stories?
Well,
which, by the way, we didn't even talk about.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. You know, we have a
been.
show here. We should tell them about tonight's show first.
So we do have some stories that we do want to talk about here in a second. One of them being, just this past week, I got the opportunity to meet Don Bluth and his animation partner, Gary Gold... Oh, crap.
Gary Oldman?
Gary Goldman.
Oh, okay. Alright. Okay. As long as it's not Gary Oldman.
No, Gary Goldman.
Okay, because you know how I feel about that right now.
You might have to explain that to some people, but...
I'll explain that in a second.
Josh, what's your story gonna be?
My story is kind of a follow-up to an older story I did last season. Pacific Rim, of course, opened and is really pretty much right now on the way out of theaters, and we're just going to do a quick overview of what exactly happened to it at the box office and what plans look like for a sequel as of right now.
You went way more in-depth with that description than I went in with mine, because then you brandished a Nerf gun at me.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's alright. We're good.
Okay.
But our closing title, our closing news story together is going to be, I can't read what it is when you run away from the notes.
That's going to be going off of a lot of older anime titles this weekend at Otakon were announced to be picked up and saved, some even being brought to Blu-ray, and we're going to be talking about, saving the longevity of these older series that some new fans might not have had the chance to see either on DVD or even on TV like we did.
Great.
Or some of you guys out there.
Great. Was there anything else we wanted to just kind of briefly go over before we started going into these
briefly
news
go
stories?
over. You guys have to understand, when we decided to do this break, obviously now you can see a lot of it had to do with not knowing Kaylin's availability for the last month.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, yes, we did need a break. You know, people need time off from their jobs. And not to say that this is a job, but it's something we enjoy doing and we don't want to burn out.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, the month we decided to take off was the worst time to take off from news, because we decided to go on break the week before San Diego Comic-Con and all the stuff that's come out as a result. So we try to keep things pretty concurrent with the news we cover, and it's a pain to not be able to talk about stuff because it's so far into the past. Things that they covered, like
it's all stuff that I know the majority of you guys would have already heard by now. We've been sitting here, you know, talking about stuff that came up at Comic-Con so long ago.
Yeah.
And of course, it's hit the social networks like crazy, and if you're here right now, it's because you knew about it through a social network.
Right.
Like, it was unavoidable. There's nothing we could bring up with you guys that would be anything new regarding Comic-Con.
But basically, our hope is that at some point a lot of these announcements will get additional announcements, so then that will allow us the opportunity to talk about them here. But for the sake of keeping concurrent, these are the stories for this week. But yes, I understand a lot of people will want to talk about, you know, the announcement of the 12th Doctor, Batman vs. Superman, all these other major things going down.
Well,
Disney
by all means, if you guys want to hang out and talk about those things, of course, if you're here with us live right now, we're going to do some post-show for about half an hour, and we can certainly just shoot the breeze as far as those topics are concerned.
Right.
And, you know, we'll go off on that. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
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 Guns!
Yeah!
Yeah!
Yeah! These things are so
I know,
sweet.
they're addictive, and we'll explain why we have these later. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and get into our first topic with
Okay, so for me,
your special meeting.
Yeah, this past week, I got to meet Don Bluth. That's really important for me, considering if any of you guys have known my previous review work, I of course went through Don Bluth's entire library of movies and reviewed each and every one of them, including all the movies and television series that were based off of his work but had no involvement from him. So he had 2 shows over at the Alamo Draft House in Austin, one of the Alamo Draft Houses.
Well, no, it was 3 altogether.
Well, it was 2 days.
Yeah, over 2 days.
There were 3 movies, 2 on Saturday, but I couldn't make the ones on Saturday, but we went to the one on Sunday,
right,
where they were featuring An American Tail. It's not like I've never seen An American Tail before, obviously. But it was an awesome experience, because Josh had this amazing, ancient, like, 27-year-old Fievel plush giant thing, unfortunately missing his pants.
Well, he lost his pants back in the 80s, you know. Unfortunately, that's what happened. No, it meant something to me, and I guess that you guys wouldn't know that from, you know, obviously watching Kaylin's work, but for me, An American Tail was the first movie I have a memory of ever seeing in theaters. Specifically, Fievel Goes West. And before that, before I could even remember, my mother had bought me this very good size, about a foot and a half tall Fievel plush that, of course, you know, having played around with him as a kid, I lost his pants. But he still got his hat, and he still got his red shirt.
Which is funny, because the hat is the thing that keeps getting lost in the movie, yet
yeah,
he managed to lose his pants.
What can I say? The 80s were a crazy time. I mean, that's the long and short of that. But.
So, that theater showing, like, they started off with a group singing of the song Somewhere Out There. I was yelling that they should sing There Are No Cats in America, but...
and a couple of people caught on to that.
Nobody wanted to go along with that, though. So, movie ends, house lights go up, and there's Don Bluth and Gary Goldman, and they walk to the front and they do a brief Q&A session, and, like, I'm sitting there so overjoyed, I really thought I was gonna cry.
No, I can attest to this. If you saw the look on her face, you would see the... I don't want to say pain necessarily, but just like you were trying to so hard from the feels of being there. Because
it wasn't the same thing as, like, inner fangirl squeal. It was like, this is the happiest moment I can think of thus far, because this is somebody that I respect so much, because there has been influence from his work throughout my life.
Your entire life.
My entire life, as far as I can remember. Like, American Tail and All Dogs Go to Heaven and Land Before Time are some of the first movies I can ever remember viewing. And so, you know, this man standing there in front of me, who's still in his 70s, he's still very, very bright.
Oh, yes, very well spoken. It amazed me how succinctly he was able to answer every question they asked him.
And so, when I finally got my chance to ask my question, which this, thankfully, thanks to Josh, got filmed just that question, and I need to post that on YouTube at some point. When it finally came to be my time, I don't know how I didn't just start sobbing right in the middle of the question. I feel like I carried it well enough, but I was faking it. I was faking it so hard.
No, you may not have noticed this, but your arm was shaking a little bit right there next to you as you were...
No, I could tell.
Yeah, okay, so...
And I was furious at myself about it, too. But there was nothing I could do. I felt so out of control. And so, but he was great because every person that he answered a question to, he'd look directly in the eye of the person who asked the question, like, that person was especially important. You asked this important question, and I deserve to give you the answer you asked me. And I won't give away, like, the entirety of his answer, but I will say that the question I asked him involved, like, you and Gary together have been animating for so long, and, like, I'm as old as An American Tail, and there are people now who are, like, 30 years old thereabouts, and they've completely grown up on your work, and what do you feel about these children who were your audience? They're now adults, now they're sharing it with a younger generation, and his answers are just... to that and to a bunch of other questions are so humbling and so on the spot. Like I don't have respect. I can't have more respect for any other animator. I just can't.
Like, you see the amount of humbleness he has. Like, he understands the level that he was able to get to as an animator with the work that he put out, and he doesn't take it for granted in the slightest.
He also is very well aware of which movies he made that were really, really terrible. So,
that
specified The Pebble and the Penguin. I'll just say that much. He's like, yeah, we made this terrible movie with Martin Short, The Pebble and the Penguin, and the whole audience just laughed.
I don't know that anybody else in the theater was recording about that story he told about Martin Short being involved with Anastasia. Because
the story that he tells there is that apparently Martin Short was originally supposed to have the role of Bartok, the little white bat that...
you can pull a picture of him right there.
Oh, yeah, because Bartok the Magnificent I have sitting right here. Unfortunately, I thought this was one of his least good works. Yeah, this little white bat right here in the middle that is very difficult to see because this is a webcam. Martin Short was supposed to be that character originally, apparently. So when Martin Short goes into the booth to record this thing as a dry
he recorded
run,
everything.
He recorded the whole thing, did he say?
Yeah, they recorded the whole thing.
Which
makes it even more...
That's kind of painful.
Yeah.
Because apparently the studio was just like, he's not funny. I'm sorry, Martin Short's just not funny. And me hearing that as he's telling that part of the story kind of breaks my heart. Like, Martin Short is my favorite celebrity. He's my favorite actor and my favorite comedian. And so my heart as I'm listening to that is just breaking to hear. Because, quite frankly, I otherwise think that Bartok is a terrible character. And so Don Bluth, like, the studio apparently said, Don, can you go tell Martin Short that we need him to be more funny or we need to find another guy.
No, they told him, ask him to do another take. Now, you have to understand, Martin Short, this man, highly talented, Emmy-winning actor, and you have to go tell this man, can you do a little better? And
apparently Don was like, hey, you did a great job.
Yeah.
But
they just want to see if we can do it a little
funnier. Like, he had to use the word funnier, and apparently Martin Short was livid.
Yeah, and if you know anything about the man, it takes a lot to get... He's one of the most professional people out there, but yeah, I can understand how that comment coming back to him, he might not have liked that.
Oh, well, apparently afterward, he had time to cool down, and he was
apologized.
apologetic. But that just, like, blew my mind, because I've so very rarely heard anyone speak in any way ill or with such describing such anger coming out of Martin Short. That just blew my mind. But he and Gary both told some really great stories.
But then it was the fact that when they bring in Hank Azaria, he just said one line and everybody started cracking up and they're like, okay, do it. And he went in and changed the characterization based off his reading.
Which I guess is alright, except I really hate that character. I
like Bartok, honestly.
I think Bartok is the worst addition to Anastasia.
You know what the worst addition to Anastasia was? The dog.
The dog wasn't so bad, it was just this floppy thing.
Yeah,
Bartok had lines.
Yeah, but the dog didn't even have lines, so I have the dog.
I don't know, I also thought that Rasputin was a little bit unnecessary. Like, if you ever saw my review, I felt like this movie was two completely different movies.
Yeah.
Based on, like, okay, she's gotta go... They're kind of making up Anastasia like she's,
like My Fair Lady, kind of.
Like they're My Fair Ladying it, and even then My Fair Lady is basis on,
Pygmalion.
Yeah. So... And so, aside from that, like, I thought that was a good enough movie. And then it's like, I must destroy all of the Tsars and all the Tsars' family, and I'm Rasputin, and by the way, I'm also Christopher Lloyd, and therefore this is going to sell movie tickets. It didn't really. But then I'm Christopher Lloyd, but now I'm Jim Cummings because I'm singing. And...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So that happened. No, I'm sorry. I really thought that part of the movie didn't even need to exist.
I think it's funny though that after the Q&A session they had a time for autographs, and to me it's funny that all of your videos are available to watch on Twitch, right?
Yeah, well, available to watch on Blip.
Or on Blip, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is Twitch. But two people came up having heard your question, not actually having seen your face, and they both give you the same comment. Your voice sounds really familiar.
It's kind of driving me crazy. I guess my voice is that recognizable because it's so low and grating and irritating. But, like, one guy, God bless this guy, but he comes up to me while the Q&A is going on, like, after I've asked this question, and thankfully after he's answered my question. And, like, he couldn't even wait till the Q&A was over. He had to rush over to me and be like, I just recognized your voice. But are you MarzGurl? Oh my god, I'm such a fan. Like, I'm glad. Don Bluth's up there. God bless this guy, though. He was just so happy. But yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know if I was thinking that I should be expecting to see people who recognized my work about Don Bluth there. I don't know whether or not that should have made sense.
I think it would have made sense. You've been doing that series for a while.
Yeah, and now it's done.
Yeah, now it's done, so it's out there.
Yeah. But I think I've driven this topic into the ground.
Well, no, it was nice. He got to sign your copy of American Tail. He took a picture with my Bible.
And my copy of Banjo the Woodpile Cat. That was especially important to me because it was his first launch out of Disney.
Yeah.
And it also involved Gary Goldman, and both Don Bluth and Gary Goldman being there and getting both of their signatures on that, and on the disc that has a picture of the both of them on it, that was really important to me. It's very precious to me.
So precious that it is now currently being guarded by your cat.
She likes to sleep on stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna say that she doesn't do that. I have to find a better place for it.
Okay. But that's good, though. Well, I guess I should explain about the Gary... Should I explain about the Gary Oldman thing, or just drop it?
Well, now you've brought it up again.
Okay, fine.
So now you have to say that, even though this has no bearing
on the
this
has nothing to do with
about.
It. Because I had joked about this when she was working on that. You know, she was telling me, you know, Don Bluth worked with this guy, Gary Goldman. I'm like, oh, Gary Oldman? You know, just being funny, punny, and whatnot. But just a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if any of you guys saw on my Twitter, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a weird, like, Z-Quill-fueled dream where I was basically in an action movie using Nerf guns as weapons, trying to chase down a villain in a movie theater played by Gary Oldman, and I took him down using a Nerf gun and just one shot, you know, with this dart ammo, you know, that you see here, just regular dart. But the funny part about it was, it wasn't like there was an explosion or anything, it was just like a regular dart hitting a person, but in my dream, Gary Oldman sold that shot so perfectly because he's such a good actor. He was like, oh! And he went down and I was like, yeah! And that's where I woke up. So since then, I've been worried about Gary Oldman popping up around me, so I keep a Nerf gun around. And that's the long and short of that. Great. Second topic?
Yeah, let's talk about your
second topic. Okay, now, I understand that a while back we had said we wanted to do a, not a podcast, just a vlog about what we thought about Pacific Rim. Unfortunately, that didn't get around to happening. However, now we've got this opportunity to talk about it in a different light, since, you know, now it's been having its run, and now it has...
International
release, having just been released over in Japan last week. And the surprising thing for a lot of people of, I guess you would say, nerd persuasion, or even in general for, you know, people in the movie business, is how kind of not under the bar the movie did.
As far as making box office sales are concerned.
Because the interesting thing to bring up about it is that over here it opened to about, I think it's 34 million, which is all right, give or take. The problem with that was it probably would have made more, except that weekend it opened up against Grown Ups 2. And that outdid it by about, I think it was 10-15 million, something like that.
Yeah, it just had bigger celebrities, and they already knew the material, even though the material isn't good. It's just that America's dumb. It's full of dumb people. Let's just throw that out there. It's full of easily entertained dumb people.
Right. Now, the thing about it was, does this say anything about how the movie was? Was it good or was it not good? No, as far as we're concerned, one of the best movies of the summer. This movie.
This is the movie.
Like, I saw it twice. You saw it in, well, you saw it with me in what, D-Box and 3D.
D-Box.
If you guys, I don't know if you guys have the option to do this, but D-Box is this thing in some theaters where basically it's rumble seats. You know, it moves.
You know, like you go to a theme park and you're like doing, say, Star Tours at Disneyland or Disney World, right? And you get in the seats and it's a movie theater and the seats go, whoa, whoa. Well, the seats don't quite move that extremely because you don't have to put on a seatbelt, but they do move. And there's rumbling and there's slight lift and lower and jostle.
So as you know, you see on the screen the Jaeger's moving, dun. Your seat is like, dun.
It's pretty awesome.
And, you know, for most people who went to go see this movie, the people who did, thank you. From a fan standpoint, thank you. They loved it. It's a well-paced story. They didn't push certain relationships too hard. The fights are nothing short of spectacular. Very visceral fights. You know, you feel like every punch, you're like, yeah, oh, you know.
Without directly trying to steal any pre-existing license, it is definitely this homage to all kinds of different fandoms, all thrown into one movie.
Exactly. And he has made, the director Guillermo del Toro has made no qualms about the fact that he is very highly influenced by anime in the making of this, and they have several videos now on YouTube you can go look up of him going and visiting the Odaiba Gundam and things of that nature.
Uh-huh.
And this is very much a labor of love for him to have made this movie. And of course they had the option with Warner Brothers that, of course, if this movie does well, they would make a sequel. And of course that hinges on box office. So we go to today. What happened with the box office? Well, here it only did so well. As I understand, in most theaters, it's finishing up its run. However, in the foreign markets, specifically China, it opened to 76, or it made as much as 76 million over there, opening to 45 million, which outdoes the box office here by about at least a good 9-10 million.
Pretty extreme.
Pretty extreme, and really right now this is hinging on the foreign markets for a sequel to happen. Now, the even more surprising thing, before the movie came out, different animators and creators over in Japan were talking about this movie like it was the friggin' second coming.
They could not speak highly enough about
like Hideo
Kojima specifically. Like when he would go on and on, tweet after tweet after tweet about just how this is the perfect thing. Like this movie is a dream come true to every mecha fan and anyone who's grown up on this kind of material over here in Japan. Like, go see this movie. If you don't see this movie, then you must not.
That kind of thing. And so you wonder, okay, well, it's obviously a love letter to kaiju, giant robot anime, and all of these influences, so how's it going to do over there? Well, now we have our answer. This weekend, unfortunately, it opened number 5 over there in Japan. And again, it does seem that this is a case of it went up against the wrong movies at the wrong time. Currently, their number 1 movie over there is The Wind Rises, which is the newest Miyazaki movie having to do with the creation of the Zero Fighter for Japan. So
how are you going to compete with Miyazaki?
One, how are you going to compete with Miyazaki? 2, it's a nationalist story, very important to them. It's like us going to see a War Independence Day type of movie over here. So, there's no fighting it. And then on top of that, World War Z, barely having opened up over there, outdid it as well. Monsters University, which was...
It had been out for a couple of weekends even prior to that, but Japan also equally as much loves Disney. And they're pretty obsessed with Disney, surprisingly.
And you had also told me that Monsters University was also one of the top grossers for the year.
Yeah. It was. It had been number 1 for the previous couple of weekends.
Yeah. So it's just really, a lot of it seems to be a matter of just the timing wasn't that great for this movie, which is in my opinion, a total shame, because this thing
knocks down, apparently, the 2 Tokusatsu spin-off movies.
Well, admittedly, that wasn't hard, but I'll get into that later. Okay, anyway, point being. So, the question is, where do we stand now? They are only a couple of million away. I think it's less than 10 million away from breaking even, and if you can break even, that at least shows that there is interest in a sequel. Now, are there plans for a sequel? Somewhat. There are reports now that they are working...
want to.
One, they want to. They have ideas for a script. I believe they said they were still working on tweaking those now to, kind of go along with fan reaction for some characters that people ended up liking, specifically the character of the scientist Newt, played by Charlie Day, who I loved in there. Very funny, yet still being a very nerdy scientist without having to be too sciencey. It's like, he knows his stuff, but he's also, they even call him a fanboy of the kaiju.
Kaiju, which is funny because such a term totally actually exists.
Yeah.
Kaiju fanboy. Really, I know plenty of people who are like, oh, I've got to collect every single Japanese monster movie ever. This is my shelf specifically for kaiju. I know those people. This guy was that guy if kaiju were real.
And in the case of the movie, it fits
were.
perfectly. And he absolutely loved playing the character. He would love to come back to do it. Far as I know, this entire cast absolutely loved every minute of working on it, and they're more than happy to come back and do this. And then Guillermo himself, he wants to make more reference.
He's hugging the Ultraman monsters.
Baltan.
Yeah, Baltan. He's the only Ultraman monster that matters to anybody. He's the most popular Ultraman monster.
And you look at this GIF, go look on Tumblr, you can find it. He is so happy. You can see his love for these monsters.
Oh, he's smiling, he's just jittering, and he's got to hug him. Oh, this is great.
So it's like, even for this man's sake, Warner Brothers, if you're listening, please make the sequel.
You're listening, like they care.
Oh, come on. There's got to be some snoop around there in the ether somewhere on the internet listening for this stuff. Because, even this past weekend, they celebrated what people were calling, was it JagerCon or something like that?
Yeah, that exists.
Yeah, and they cover this in the beginning of the movie, Kaiju Day. The day that the first kaiju attacks was just this past weekend.
Oh, yeah, my Facebook feed was
my
full.
My Tumblr and Twitter feed spammed completely with people making marathon viewings of Pacific Rim, trying to give them the views that they deserve. And that says something when a bunch of people can rally together. And that even happened right after it opened, when people saw that it didn't quite do the numbers. Through social media, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, people rallied their friends together to come and support this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that is amazing. That people responded so positively to it, and I think, or rather I should say I wish, that based off that alone, it should have that sequel, that opportunity to get more people that hyped about something.
Because I think if it means that, like, this were, say, either a sleeper or a, just kind of a cult sort of fan following.
Definitely it's getting into cult now.
If it gets into cult fan following territory, because that means, like you were saying before, it unfortunately had bad timing of going up against other movies that it just didn't have a chance with, because, let's face it, it's kind of niche, but if it had a different weekend, it would have been fine.
Exactly.
However, the people that it got were very passionate and willing to just throw money away at this. So, if you gave it the opportunity with a second movie, people probably by that point would have heard about this thing, like, this supposedly is really good with this fairly large fan base, and then it'll start making home video sales.
Oh yes, definitely. I will pre-order the hell out of whatever Blu-ray box set they put out, like the Gypsy Danger's face for the case or something like that. That would be sweet.
Oh yeah, of course. I'd be all over it.
Absolutely.
Surely by then it gives the second movie a chance to actually have bigger numbers than the first movie.
Right, exactly.
That happens occasionally from time to time.
Oh yeah, that happens, plenty of times. And actually that'll go into the next thing. I was about to use the example of Jurassic Park versus The Lost World making more money, and I think that was part of what happened here with Pacific Rim, was they didn't quite play up the toys.
Mm-hmm, that's true. They didn't sell that many. I haven't hardly seen any since just before the movie came out.
Really, all I've been able to find personally are the little hero clicks of the different kaiju.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, they have hero clicks of the kaiju and the Jaegers, and they had like a t-shirt or two at Hot Topic, and then you have to like check your local comic shop for the nice McFarlane-sized figures,
right.
the like 8-inchers or something like that, and that's all they had. If they had more of a push on that, I think that would have made up for the difference in public awareness.
I think that's also a difference between Japanese markets and American markets, is that I think Japan cares more, like, it's not like we don't care, but they care more about what toy sales do.
Right.
Like, they will make a large hunk of their money, like, because kids can't buy a TV series or a movie, but they can beg their parents while it's still, like, on TV or it's still in theaters, like, Mommy, Daddy, buy me this toy, buy me this toy, buy me this toy, and they'll do it. And
right.
Toy sales will prove just how well it's actually doing in viewership.
Right. And part of it too, when it was released, what ate into it was I believe it was Despicable Me 2 as well. So there's the whole thing. If you're thinking about it for the next movie, the next sequel, the next installment, if you're paying attention, Warner Brothers, do not put it up against any sequels. Make sure it's going up against something that's trying out for its first time, because even then, that just proves sequels make money. Bottom line.
It doesn't mean they're good, but it does mean they make money.
But, you know, you look at Guillermo's track record, Hellboy to Hellboy 2, Hellboy 2 was still just as satisfying.
I liked Hellboy 2. I liked Hellboy 2 a lot.
I'm still waiting for Hellboy 3.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, here's hoping.
They're saying they wanna, right?
Yes, they've been, specifically Ron Perlman's been talking with him, trying to help him shop around the ideas that they have for Hellboy 3, so hopefully that'll happen. But on top of that, I guess I'll wrap up this section by saying, yeah, whatever chance you guys have, if you have a local theater that's still showing Pacific Rim, whether it be in any showing, 3D, IMAX, D-Box, what have you, or even if it's going to head to the dollar theaters around pretty soon, go support this movie. Get those pre-orders in for the Blu-ray when those go up. Now that some of you seem to be now aware that there are toys, let's go get those toys. Somewhere out there's a 2-foot-tall light-up Gypsy Danger.
There is?
Yeah. About...
That's so cool.
Yeah. And it's got the chainsaw and the chest lights up like... like, screw you, Iron Man. Gypsy Danger. That's where I'm at.
Gypsy Danger's a lot bigger than Iron Man.
Dang straight, it's a lot bigger than Iron Man. It's Gypsy Danger.
Pretty sure he could take down Iron Man.
I'm pretty sure he could. See, now we're getting into the extra nerdy territory. Okay, so if Iron Man fought the Gypsy Danger, who would win? Because the Gypsy Danger is nuclear, but Iron Man has the arc reactor.
He also has a lot of different suits.
Yeah, but we've shown that those...
Hey, you know what? That movie blew, as far as that scene was concerned, okay?
Iron Man but you saw those things are paper, so Gypsy Danger would win.
But if they all went after him at once...
Yeah, but he's got freaking rocket punch.
He can't rocket punch every last little Iron Man suit.
Well, he's also got the chainsword.
You know what? I don't want to talk about this anymore.
You just don't want to admit Gypsy Danger would win.
I just don't want to stay on this topic anymore.
Okay, we won't stay on this topic, but we will say this. Now that you guys have heard this, fan art, Gypsy Danger versus Iron Man, I want to see that on our feeds tonight.
It's gonna be like... Gypsy Danger is as big as the length of my hand, and here's Iron Man down here the length of my...
the tip of your thumb.
The tip of my thumb.
Or just like a bunch of gnats swarming around the Gypsy Danger. Pew, 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 pew. Okay, alright. Moving on.
So, saving of anime titles, this happened apparently?
Yes, just recently at Otakon, Funimation, well, we'll start with them. Funimation has announced that they have acquired several series, most of which did belong to the now not really working Bandai. Most of their titles, their biggest titles, specifically Escaflowne, Outlaw Star, and the announcement of Cowboy Bebop on Blu-ray.
It was kind of a weird world to be living in, where it didn't seem like we were going to have Cowboy Bebop readily available anymore.
I know.
That's just a bizarre feeling. Like the feeling of knowing we don't have Gundam readily available. That is also a bizarre feeling.
That is still a case right now, because, and this is getting right into our topic, you know, saving these older titles for people who haven't had the chance to view them yet.
But before we can kind of dig into that, who else picked... Other people picked up stuff this past weekend, right?
Yes,
or announced that they had.
Sentai Filmworks seemed to pick up another bunch of other Bandai titles, specifically the Big O, both seasons. Scried, one of my favorites. Infinite Rivius, and even off to the side, The Girl Who Leapt Through Space.
The Girl Who Leapt Through Space, like, that series, because...
No, wait, that's not The Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
Okay, well, that's thank God.
But yes, these series are getting saved for a new generation of people who don't know what they are. King Gainer got saved.
Gainer.
I'm
pretty sure it's actually pronounced Gainer. Yeah, it's King Gainer.
Okay.
I don't care how it's spelled.
And then My Hime and My Otome, that's not my deal, but somebody likes it.
I know our friends... We know friends who do like it.
Yeah. So they're happy about it.
I'm sure they are. Not my thing. But yeah, no, these titles that... It's so weird because we kind of grew up on these titles, and some of them were like, these are titles that aired on TV.
Yeah, even Witch Hunter Robin, too, another one of my personal favorites.
They got popularity on television, and these were considered staples. Like, you didn't necessarily have to like these titles, but it was like textbook regulated that you knew what they were.
Yes.
And it's so weird.
Specifically like Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop and Outlaw Star, and to an extent, Escaflowne, because it made Foxbox airing. Or was it Foxbox? It was on Fox. I don't remember if it had, like, transitioned.
No, it wasn't Foxbox yet. It was just Fox.
Kind of a bad edit of that.
Yeah.
But it did have, television presence. So it's so weird now. God, how many years has it been since some of those titles have been on TV?
Well, I remember, like, I don't know if I've said this story before, but I remember so absolutely clearly staying up till midnight, the premiere on Adult Swim, Cowboy Bebop. My brother and I stayed up. We keep the volume real low because everybody else in the house was sleeping, and we watched this thing for the first time. And, we didn't have very much internet access back then, but we had heard so much just in the ether. Cowboy Bebop. Spike's, it's like, all right, so what is this thing? And we watch it, and yeah, it was a smaller world back then. So when you see this thing, it just opens your eyes like, wow, I didn't know you could show this kind of action. I didn't know you could show this kind of character, before. And
that kind of story, too, also sort of, it differentiates between what anime and animation as a whole once was and what it has now become, because I feel like, because, this was 1997 when it originally aired in Japan.
1998 Sunrise, right?
1998 Sunrise. Pretty sure it was 98 or 97. I thought it was 97.
No, remember the end of Tank.
Yeah, I know, 1998
Sunrise.
So this was still a time of, we're still hand drawing, we're still cell painting. I feel like that was an age where if you were going to spend that much time, energy, and money on a project, then every last piece of it had to be good. You couldn't just vomit all over a computer and then release it to the public, and then the next weekend vomit something else, and then just spam people with all this random crap, and
actually,
hope that something sticks.
That reminds me of something, actually, going back to the first thing that Don Bluth had said, was that he was watching current cartoon shows, and he brought up the difference between people making characters move and people animating characters.
Because you have to, aside from just movement, it also involves
bringing this character to life.
And drawing from real-life people that you're like, this guy is a particularly funny individual for this particular characteristic, or, man, I would sure hate to be stuck with this guy for an extended period of time, and then you throw these characteristics into these characters that you want to portray in the story, and I feel like Outlaw Star and Cowboy Bebop in specific managed to do that so well, and so they were the obvious choices to throw onto television and then garner this audience that way.
Right.
And thank God for anime being back on TV in the way that it is now, because I just feel like America won't have anime nearly as much in the forefront without it being on television. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that these are titles that seemed like such staples, and maybe it's because we're getting older, maybe we're old fogies, and everyone moves to the new hotness.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it didn't really feel like all that long ago when we were sitting there staying up late and watching it, and it was like, this is the important thing, and then it was like for a short period of time it was lost, and now we're learning, oh, it's coming back. But even then, it's like, this new generation will only understand so far as, oh yeah, I've seen that title like on a shelf somewhere.
Well, see, part of it too is like, and I'll reference specifically Cowboy Bebop, was the way that story was told, animated, the music. You know, Yoko Kanno doing an incredible...
Who also was there at
Otakon, and I feel bad that we were not able to witness that concert.
I know.
Point being, replayability.
Rewatchability.
Rewatchability. Well, even replayability if you own it. I own all of Cowboy Bebop, thankfully. And, yeah, I go back and I watch it because just the storytelling was so good. That's why it could run on Adult Swim ad nauseum for however long it was running. And
Years. Years for only being how many episodes?
26.
26, yeah.
And one movie. And even then, that story, those characters stay with you for so long. And I'm glad that, you know, companies like Funimation, like Sentai Filmworks are going back and realizing, hey, you know what? We can't let this stuff die. We can't let it not be able... I mean, yes, of course, it makes, you know, them money, and that's always bottom line, but at the same time, there's a love for these characters, for these stories, that I think deserves to be shared with a whole new generation. And now we get to say, yeah, a whole new generation.
Because, let's think about it for a second. Like, I'm not nearly as big of an anime fan as far as modern anime is concerned as I once was. And now why is that? I mean, you go to cons anymore, and yeah, you see a number of different anime that are being heavily cosplayed, or there's certain products that get sold a whole bunch of. But it's like, it's more of a smattering now than it once was. Like, it used to be that you couldn't go around a con without, at every turn, seeing 5 Inuyashas.
Yeah.
You know? And that was because of popularity on television. I mean, the most recent example of just this overflow of a particular series is obviously Attack on Titan.
Yes, I was actually about to bring this up because of Crunchyroll, you know, having the simulcast and that being the, you know, the big show of the season. You know, you see in the same way that Adult Swim, Toonami used to be the core way you got anime. Now it's Crunchyroll. Whatever's the big thing, that's what's going to show up in cosplays. That's the merchandise that's going to be bought.
It's like it's still not really... it feels like it's more spaced out now. Like it's got to be a rare, like, real hit right at home sort of a thing. I don't think there's a lot of things out there currently that come anywhere close to Attack on Titan. And for me, Attack on Titan is just, yeah, it's a good show, and I like to watch it. But it's not anything like some titles that I've seen in the past where it's like, oh, this is it. This thing is like the thing, that I have to have this thing. It's definitely the flavor of the season.
And we're not saying it's bad. I think it's good.
Absolutely not. I think it's a good series, too. It's definitely the best thing as of late.
Yeah.
But it's just
some
so
of these titles,
few
like
and
the
far
Big
between.
O. Let's talk about that for a second. The Big O, for me, it was like, I didn't know you could turn, like, before, you know, stuff like Gotham Knight happened. This was like Batman if it was an anime. Because the setup, that first episode, because I remember...
Well, that, and they specifically state that they borrow that sort of character design element
from the Paul Dini writing and Bruce Timm's run of Batman the Animated Series influenced that series. So you add these two things together, and it makes something that at least those first 13 episodes.
But listen to what we're talking about here. Again, we're talking about series that did so well over here because they hit television. And let's not kid ourselves. While the internet does give us the chance for a more wide audience, most of America is not actually tech or internet savvy, and they don't understand.
It's getting there, but it's not still... It still doesn't beat the power of broadcast television.
It can't. Broadcast television has entertainment by the balls.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. And by the way that broadcast television and big-name networks and movie studios are functioning, they would love to keep it that way. Thus, these past couple of years of fighting to kind of like destroy the internet and all of its entertainment. But,
yeah, and of course you would know a little something about
that.
Yeah,
yeah. But that having been said, I feel like that's part of the reason why you get so very few hits, at least in America, coming over from Japan. Like, it's gotta be rare, like, it's gotta be so good that people who normally wouldn't go looking for it have to go and hunt this thing down, even when they otherwise wouldn't know any better.
Right.
Thus, Attack on Titan has become what it has. I feel like Madoka came close, and yet it didn't reach the fandom that Attack on Titan did so very quickly.
Yeah.
And me, myself, I feel like there was once a time where I knew, even if I wasn't watching absolutely everything, I knew a large hunk of what all of these different big fandoms were.
Yeah.
And that's harder now because stuff just keeps getting spewed out. Because it's so easy to animate and it's so easy to just throw it online.
Right.
And get streaming licenses rather than licensing for DVD or for television.
Right.
And now I really can't say that anymore. And I was having this discussion on Tumblr with somebody over this past week, actually, that it has to be so special, and I can't, because there's just so much media out there to choose from, because you have to wade through so much crap to find the diamond in the rough, that it takes a lot for me to figure out what thing is actually really worth it.
Right.
It's hard. It's really hard anymore.
And we look at it like Attack on Titan, yes, getting massive amounts of views online through Crunchyroll, but that would not compare to it showing on network TV on, say, Adult Swim or Toonami.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the reach would be so much further out there. And then we think about some of the other stuff that was released then, you know, where is it now? You know, where's that same... I mean, granted, these titles, which have aired on both Toonami and Adult Swim, are getting saved.
Well, that's the beauty of it, is that these are titles that meant so much, and thank God they are getting saved, because otherwise, like, that's an encapsulated piece of history that, due to the way technology has moved, I don't think we're ever going to get it back.
Well, and the thing about it, too, and I think we mentioned this for a second, is where's the saving of Gundam in all this?
Where is that? Like, they're saving other Bandai titles.
Well, yes, specifically, Sentai Filmworks was saying that they were working on saving a lot of those Bandai titles, and even Funimation picked up a couple of them, too. So, this big one, and there is still a Gundam following here in America.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, now, granted, they have some streaming licenses going on.
But that is not the same thing as being able to buy, like, buy
Gundam, see Gundam on TV.
Yes. Because there was a Gundam boom because of Toonami.
Oh, yeah.
That was part of my introduction.
Like, man, I could not stop hearing about Wing in high school.
That was me.
Man.
That was me.
That was all my classmates. Like, you're not allowed to wear t-shirts with logos or pictures printed on them, and yet I would see Gundam Wing t-shirts at school.
Dang straight.
Most people got sent home.
Dang straight.
Because they loved Gundam Wing.
Hell yeah. Wing Zero, Death Scythe, Heavy Arms, Shenlong, Sandrock, Tall Geese, what? I love Gundam Wing. I just want to put that out there. But on top of that, I would like to still be able to purchase, like, 8th MS Team, which had its run again on there.
0083, nobody likes that but me!
Alright, 0083. I like the design, wasn't big on the story, but still...
I got a brand new car with the CD player and the power windows.
Some of you will get that, some of you won't. But point being, you know, a lot of these older titles, you know, deserve a new generation for people to get into. Another bunch of people who will know what it's like to want to jump onto White Base. To cry over Matilda. I mean, people... I don't know if I want to go that far to say it. People need that. Need that opportunity. Because there's something to it. In all these other, even more current, like I'd say slice of life series, where they reference something from Gundam, we see it over here on either on TV or on Crunchyroll, and you'll miss it completely because you didn't have that exposure, you didn't have that chance, and something gets lost when we don't preserve this stuff.
Well, now I also wonder, what will the references be later on down the road? Because, like I was saying before, you can just throw whatever up and out there on the internet anymore.
Yeah.
And thanks to technology, any studio, for far more cheap than once was possible, can just make anything. So there's just so much to wade through. So what is it that's going to be popular enough that it gets, like, parodied later on down the road, or it gets referenced in something else? How many people are going to have a reference thrown at them, and then they're going to miss that reference because they didn't know they were supposed to be paying attention because they were so busy trying to catch up with everything else being thrown at them?
Right, and on top of that, you look at the current, I guess, roster of anime out there, how many of them have the staying power of, say, a Cowboy Bebop, or a Big O, or Outlaw Star, things like that, where it's like, people are like, hey, where is this 10 years down the road? Will people demand it when it's not there anymore?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, even an example there would be Attack on Titan. Will people be asking for Attack on Titan 10 years from now? Will people be asking for Madoka 10 years from now? Sword Art Online 10 years from now?
My cat just ruined everything. Anyway.
But the question...
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Why are you asking me? What time, what year is it right now? It's 2013.
Yeah, it's 2013.
Yeah, what year is it 10 years from now?
2023.
Am I there yet?
I don't know, are you?
I don't have the answer, Josh! I don't have the answer!
Alright, I thought I'd ask.
You didn't know what year we were in, did you?
Yeah, I did!
You didn't know.
I've got my phone right here, and it says the date. It's the 15th of August of this year.
It does not say what year it is.
It's this year.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, too. But yes, the long story short, I'm glad that these are getting saved. Where's Gundam? Can we save that, please? And on top of that, I don't know that anybody, now that I'm remembering this, I don't know that anybody has currently picked up, because Bandai also had Gurren Lagann. That one, true. I believe, is one of the more, I know it's not hella recent, but that has staying power.
That's true.
So where's, picking up the slack on getting that back out into the ether?
That's a good question. As weird as it sounds, I know your timer says that there's still 19 minutes, but we started at 8:05, and it's now 9:07, so I think something's wonky with your timer, and I believe we're actually overtime.
Well, I guess we'll cut it then.
I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know that we're overtime. I don't even know how that happened.
I don't know how that happened either. I think you selected something funky.
I guess.
In any case...
Well, it's a premiere episode. It can go a little long.
Okay, well, I do think we at least need to wrap it up and then start post-show, and then we can just keep gabbing on about whatever.
All right.
That having been said, we can even continue this topic on here in a second. So for those of you who are here with us live, stick with us for about another half an hour or so. We will keep having conversations with you guys. For those of you who are watching this not live on YouTube, what's the matter with you? Get in on our next live show. We'll talk with you guys. It's going to be awesome. It'll be great.
And we'll be posting...
so fun. These guys in the chat room have been having a good time joking with one another right now.
Yes, it's fun to watch.
And you guys can get in on this fun action too. So, we'll make an announcement when we do our next live show. We usually do record on Thursday nights anyway. It's all really dependent on this guy's schedule right here.
I admit it.
In any case, thank you so much for coming out to our Season 2 premiere. This is awesome to be back in the seat doing this.
And as always, you can always follow us on Twitter. I'm at Josh Knight First.
I'm at MarzGurl Prod.
And yeah, this was episode 1 of Season 2 of Beyond the Black Rims.
And thanks a whole lot. Be seeing you next time.
Alright.